Again, making this Eleanor. Ow! I just poked myself on a needle. Hey guys, Teal Curlew back at it again, making this Eleanor Lamb cosplay, which we have been working on I have been working on for a very long time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go see this video. This one, right here. Today, you will finally see some progress on it, which is great, because I've been procrastinating on this for probably like 5 months, maybe 4, I don't know. And if you guys are wondering what the finished product looks like, it's this right here. And as you can see, it's a helmet. It has a screen so you can put it on your head if you want, and it also lights up. So without further ado, let's start finishing this cosplay. Alright, so first things first, let me tell you what happened since I made the last video. My parents started making these boat cushions in the basement where I work, and unfortunately as they were doing that, stuff got jostled around and the jump rope on the other helmet fell off. Now this isn't bad, and the reason why it fell off was because I originally went too fast while gluing it down. So as you can see here, I'm just going very slowly and holding it down just to make sure it dries properly, because that's really what you want. You want it to dry properly as you're holding it down, and you also want the hot glue to be super hot while you're putting it on. So for the next thing, I basically took a razor, and I couldn't find my Exacto knife, so I just kind of took a box cutter razor. And I just gently cut off the clumps of glue that stuck out awkwardly or whatever. And I also went over any holes that might be there with some smooth finish stuff, and I sanded that off later. Alright, so here we are with the sanding. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take some fine sandpaper and gently sand down the smooth finish. Because the smooth finish, I love it because it really just sands off and it's super lightweight also, but it's not really that strong. So you want to gently sand it. And finally, for the black part, the tubing around the helmet, you're going to want to sand that a little bit too, so when you spray paint it, the spray paint has something to grip to. So here I am mixing together some Elmer's glue with some dye. And the reason why I used fabric dye was because you could see it, and the Elmer's glue, when you paint it on the helmet, you wouldn't be able to see it. So I really like to use Elmer's glue, but if you have something else you want to use, like maybe sprayable liquid latex, I know some people use, plaster even, you could totally use those. But the reason why I use Elmer's glue was because there's a lot of it and it's very cheap. Now the problem with Elmer's glue is it drips very easily. And as I made this, as I painted the helmet, I basically watched after it very closely. And I did this just to make sure that there were no drips. And as drips formed, because obviously they will form, I basically took a paintbrush and some water and I gently smoothed them out. But yeah, so I would not really recommend using Elmer's glue, but it's not bad. It's not a bad thing to use if it's all you have. So here you see I'm basically painting a thin layer of glue onto the helmet. And when you do this, you're going to want to do a couple of thin coats of Elmer's glue if you do go the Elmer's glue route. Also, if you can, avoid the black tubing, because the black tubing, I did a test on it earlier, and it doesn't really work well with the Elmer's glue, so just leave that alone, and later on we'll cover it with spray paint and cover it with a lot of clear coat. So as you keep doing that, you're just going to keep putting layer upon layer on, and soon you'll have an entirely pink, or whatever color you chose, if you chose a color at all, you'll have an entirely pink Big Sister Bioshock helmet. Well, anyway, as we're waiting for our helmet to dry, basically take your pieces that you made out of craft foam and begin to paint those with Elmer's glue. Remember, you don't really need to use colored Elmer's glue while doing this, since the white is going to show up on the colored craft foam. You also don't really have to watch out for drips. Wow, look how beautiful it is in my backyard, kind of a rare occurrence for New England. Anyway, once your helmet is dry, you could take it outside, put some newspaper down, and start spray painting it silver. And just remember, this is only going to be one coat, because we're going to put on the final coat of spray paint later. Now you can see it's all shiny and gorgeous, wow! You might be thinking that this is too shiny for a Bioshock Big Sister helmet, because their helmets are covered in scum and dirt and barnacles or whatever. But we'll be making it a lot nicer later. I mean, a lot dirtier later. But for now, pick up the helmet by the inside of it, because you don't want your helmet to get covered in hands, and you don't want your hands to get covered in helmet, and spray paint the bottom of it. Alright, the next part is a little tedious, but it's not that bad. Basically, you're going to take an Exacto knife and start cutting off any little lumps you might see. The reason why we're doing this now, instead of before, is because you really couldn't see the lumps with the clear glue. Now that it's covered in spray paint, we could easily see them and cut them off. The next part is to take some smooth finish and start smearing it over the holes you may have made or the holes that were already there. After you wait a few hours for it to dry, you can take some sandpaper and then just gently sand it off. The reason why I'm doing this extra step is because it really does make the helmet look super smooth, like polished metal. If you're really not feeling up for this step though, I'm pretty sure you could just bypass it and the helmet will still look pretty good. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to making costumes. Anyway, the next part is you're just going to cover it in glue once again. Like usual, make sure there's no drips. Keep an eye out on it. For this one I actually did 2 coats of glue, but I mean, I always do overkill, so you don't really have to. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a lamp hanging from my ceiling. Alright, now that that's done, we're basically going to cover it with spray paint once again, and this time do 2 coats of spray paint because this is going to be the last one. Also, cover those pieces you made in brass-colored spray paint. Now it's time for dry brushing, and for dry brushing I basically used some old brushes, a paper towel, an old t-shirt, and some black paint. Sometimes brown paint works too, but for this one I just used black paint. Later, I think I might do another video showing a couple of different techniques for dry brushing, but the main technique I really did use for this one was to paint the entire helmet black, wait for it to dry a teeny bit, and then pat all the paint off. Don't be afraid to make some sections of the helmet completely black. This is going to make it look older, dirtier, and more worn, and more like old metal. Areas like the ridges in the black tubing, the sides of the jump rope, and the area around the window should be pretty dark by the time you're done painting. Think of it like this: where would the dirt that couldn't be wiped away be? Another tip: remember to make the smooth sides fairly dark as well. Also, remember to paint the inside of the helmet black because this is just going to make it look a lot more nicer and a lot more professional when people are looking in at your lovely face. Now you can see with just a little bit of paint, we basically made the helmet age 10 years or so. Now find a place for your helmet to wait while it dries and get ready to paint those extra pieces we made. Basically do the same thing that you've done to the helmet. Now that that's done, we're going to take the clear coat and we're going to cover the helmet in it, and also cover those pieces as well. Do about 2 coats of this. That way it'll be super shiny. Now we can play with the LEDs. What you're going to do is you're going to cut a small hole in the craft foam in the back of the helmet, and then slowly feed the LEDs through it. You can also ram the battery pack into the hole you made. Put some Velcro onto the cover, and then put some on the helmet so we can attach it. Make sure the on-off switch is aligned with the opening in the cover, then stick it over the hole and voila! You have yourself a hidden battery pack. Now take your hot glue gun and hot glue the LEDs around the inside of the helmet. Try and make them fairly evenly spaced so that way when you turn it on, it looks nice. To make the metal cage piece that goes on the inside of the window, I first cut out the shape of it out of black construction paper, then I spray painted it gold. Here I cut little squares out of stocking material and glued it onto the holes I made in the helmet. These holes are so that you could have more airflow in the helmet, and the stocking material is so you won't see the holes. Back to the window piece that we spray painted a second ago. Here you can see I glued googly eyes onto it, then aged it using black paint. Now you could take your hot glue and glue it onto the window. And just as a tip, if you have any tack, like the stuff you put on posters to stick on the walls, use those to make sure you like the positioning of the piece on the window before you actually glue it down. Finally, we're at the moment where we could finally take some hot glue and glue the window down. While the hot glue is still hot, make sure that the window is positioned correctly. You can see here that I adjust it slightly before patting it down. Finally, I'm adding the 2 little frames to the little windows. As you can see, I'm not putting any green film over them because I want them to be open for airflow, but if in the future I want them to actually be covered, I can easily take an Exacto knife and gently cut the windows up to glue some of the green stuff down on the inside of them. And finally, we're done with this helmet. Now, a couple things to note. This project does not happen overnight. I'd say if you want to make this for a con, start roughly, let's say, 3 months before. Yeah, 3 months should give you enough time to actually make the helmet. I ended up finishing this helmet within the course of half a year, but that's because I was focusing on other stuff, like school and work and whatever. Okay, time for my self-evaluation. This is a very nice helmet, but it is also lightweight, which means that it is prone to damage. It's durable, but if you drop it on hard concrete or jab it with a sharp stick, it'll probably come away scratched. That being said, because of its lightness, it could easily be carried around at a con, and you could wear it on your head for long periods of time without it weighing you down too much. The average cost of a helmet like this is probably about $50 to $100, depending on what type of materials you want to buy. All in all, I really like how this helmet turned out. It's super comfortable to wear and it looks so much better than the original. Lastly, those photos taken at the beginning were by Jason Laboy Photography. If you found this video helpful or just plain interesting, consider clicking the like and subscribe button. Any questions? Let me know in the comment section below and I'll try and answer them the best I can. Well, until next time.